What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be having a deep look at one of the most underrated pieces of equipment in Modern Warfare 3, at least after updates. This is the EMD grenade. This is something I haven't done a full breakdown of yet, and I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've seen people use this in-game, and I really think a lot of people are missing out, especially after they got buffed with the Season 2 Reloaded update. And while I did cover the basics of what changed with the EMD grenade with that update, I still haven't done a full-on breakdown of the EMD, so that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. And without further ado, let's dive right into this, and we're going to start it off with the description. They mention in-game this applies a tracking device to enemies hit, revealing their location and direction on your team's minimap. And let's quickly recap what changed with this with the Season 2 Reloaded updates. This is what it looked like pre-patch. When you hit somebody with that EMD grenade, there'd be a little like ripple effect that follows their character model around on the minimap, and then every few seconds you would get that red diamond that would ping on the minimap. So pre-patch, it definitely had some utility to it, but it's pretty easy to miss that little ripple effect when you're in the heat of the moment in the game, and as a result, I wasn't too surprised that not a ton of people gravitated toward the EMD grenade. Post-patch, however, this is what it looks like when an enemy gets tagged by an EMD grenade. Now, not only do they still have that ripple effect that follows them around, but that diamond is going to be pinging every 250 milliseconds, so that's going to be following them around almost in real time. And in a sense, it's almost like a mini version of an advanced UAV that just doesn't show directional indicators, which now makes this a lot more powerful than it was pre-patch. Now, in addition to this, something you might be noticing while watching this is the duration is insane. This actually lasts for a total of 30 seconds if you don't do anything to counter it. And 30 seconds in Call of Duty terms is a very long time. That's like a kill streak reward, not something you would tend to see with a piece of tactical equipment. So far, it's looking pretty good for this EMD grenade, especially post-patch. However, a key thing to point out is when you're on the receiving end of an EMD grenade, you will have this prompt that pops up in the center of your screen, and you'll also have a little pinging sound in the background. I'll just play a clip for a few seconds so you guys can listen to what that sounds like. So when you hear that and you have that indicator on your screen, all you have to do is hold down the button that it's prompting you for. In the case of PlayStation, this is going to be the square button. And then when you do that, there is a 2-second animation that takes place where you can fire your gun, but you can't aim down sight while performing this animation. And once that animation completes, the tracker is gone and you will no longer be tracked by that. And since this does last for a total of 30 seconds, if you ever do get hit by an EMD grenade, I would highly recommend trying to find some time to remove that tracker, because it's not the type of thing where if you ignore it, it'll just fade away a few seconds later. This is going to be following you around for a total of 30 seconds. As for the next thing I wanted to point out with the EMD grenade that makes it quite powerful, this is the total hit radius that this has when you throw it down, which based on my testing appears to be around 12 meters or so. So you just have to get that EMD grenade within about 12 meters of the enemy player, and it will tag them as long as that player is within the line of sight of that tracker. So this doesn't work through walls or anything. You do have to get it within a line of sight of the players when it goes off, but that 12-meter radius is very forgiving. And to make this even more interesting, and I think this is the part where a lot of you guys are going to be quite surprised, it appears currently the EMD has no limit on the number of enemies that it will tag. As long as those enemies are within 12 meters and within the line of sight of that when it goes off, it will tag all of them. And especially when we're talking about small map playlists, this can be pretty crazy to see. You throw one EMD grenade out, and oftentimes you'll get 3 or 4 people tagged with that. And that can actually make this even more powerful than a UAV, and it's just a piece of lethal equipment. And I guess another thing to mention here that may also surprise you is this isn't just working for you. This works for your entire team. So right here, my teammate threw an EMD grenade, and this is what I get to see. And if that doesn't convince you to branch away from stun grenades every now and then and give the EMD a shot, I don't know what will. But that really goes to show just how powerful this grenade can potentially be. Now at this point, you're probably wondering, what about counterplay? Aside from just hitting that button to remove the tracker, which takes you out of the fight for a couple seconds and prevents you from being able to aim down sights, is there any other way to counter this, like with a perk for instance? And it turns out Cold-Blooded does nothing against this. However, Ghost and the Assassin Vest, both of these will somewhat protect you against the EMD, but it's not a full counter. It's just a pretty good partial counter. And with these, they both work the same to counteract the EMD grenade, but of course, with the Ghost TV camo, you do have to be moving in order to keep that activated. If you stand still, it won't be activated. But with that in mind, if you're using one of these two, once you get tracked by an EMD grenade, you'll never show up as a red diamond on the enemy's minimap, but that little ripple effect will still follow you around in real time, and therefore it might not be quite as obvious for enemy players to find you and track you. It's not really going to catch their eye as much as a red diamond would, but if a player is really paying attention to their minimap, they'll still be able to track exactly where you are in at least almost real time. And therefore, even if you are using the Assassin Vest or the Ghost perk, you still generally want to find that moment to remove that tracker from an EMD grenade, because an alert player will absolutely be able to find you and kill you still. And there we go. That's going to wrap it up for all of the important stats to know about the EMD grenade in Modern Warfare 3. And personally, I think this is extremely underrated in the game's current state. I'm surprised I'm not seeing more people use this. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing more people use this just to get people branching away from stun grenades a little bit more. Because as of right now, it seems like stun grenades are being spammed like crazy. The Tac Mask perk isn't an amazing counter to the stun grenade. You can still get killed very often while using that counter. So I honestly wouldn't mind seeing people branch out and use something a little different, like the EMD grenade. In saying that though, after doing the breakdown of this, honestly, I do feel like 30 seconds is a bit too long to be tracked. In Call of Duty terms, that's a decent percentage of a match for you to be tracked in real time by a piece of equipment that you just spawn in with every single time you respawn. I think now that we've seen a very notable buff to the pinging effect, where it's going to be pinging you every 250 milliseconds as a red diamond, I think now that we have that, I really wouldn't mind seeing them cut that duration down. I do think 30 seconds is a bit too long. I think 15 to 20 seconds would be more than long enough for this to track you. But then again, that's just my opinion on that. I don't think this is like incredibly broken at this stage, but then again, I think a lot of people just haven't really discovered the EMD grenade, especially after these updates. So perhaps now that I've made this video, the usage is just going to be spread a little bit, and maybe this will end up being a problem. So I'm just kind of thinking ahead, and I do think 30 seconds may be a little bit overkill on that tracking. And another thing I wanted to mention with the EMD grenade is I do feel these are going to be far more powerful on these small maps and like that small map playlist compared to the larger maps in the game. And the simple reason behind that is you've got a higher chance of pinging multiple enemies with a single EMD grenade when you're playing on a small map playlist compared to a larger map where it's more likely you'll just get a single hit on an enemy that you kind of already know is around a corner, for instance. And then on top of that, on the larger maps, you often have a couple seconds to just take cover and remove a tracker without that being too risky of a thing to do because you've got time and you've got room to do that. Whereas in the small map playlist, finding 2 seconds to take cover and remove this tracker while not being able to aim down sights, that can often feel like an eternity with how fast things can move on a small map playlist. So I definitely think it's more powerful in some playlists and on some maps compared to others. But this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Now that you've seen the full breakdown of the EMD grenade, what do you think about it? Are you guys surprised by the power of this and by the fact that not many people are using this? Or do you think I'm overhyping it a little bit? Do you think it's not quite as good as I'm making it out to be? And I am curious to know if you're planning on making the switch to EMD grenades, at least on some of your classes. If you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.